to LCS Talks. I'm Berkeley Glazer. I am the principal of Langley Christian Middle School.
I'm Kevin Merchandani, Director of Instruction.
And I'm Dave McVitie, the school counselor.
Oh, and what are we doing today, Kevin?
Awesome, Berkeley and Dave. This is our final episode of Season 4 on faith, identity, and social emotional development. We have been talking with a couple of guests in our school community about that coin of faith formation on one side and social emotional development on the other, and how they are held together by a community of faith that wants to see all people equipped and thrived. And I should mention connected as well as our core values. So just to give you a bit of a recap, in episode 1, we had Joyce Wang, our Director of Learning Support Services, Inclusion. She shared with us a little bit about her story. We got to know her a bit more in the work that she does with our Learning Support Services team and supporting social emotional development. There we talked about a bit of what we had in store with the season, and we shared some insights about how families can continue to partner with us and how we can partner with families in their child's social emotional development. And then episode 2, we had Dave McVitie with us. Dave's our school counselor, and he shared on the importance of joy and attachment. Things to highlight from there, Dave, that you had talked about?
Oh, just the value of face-to-face interactions, and to really not forget how important that it is your kids know you're glad to be with them and that they're in your presence, and the impact that can make on a relationship.
Yeah.
Both at home and in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. We talked about every child being seen and known in relationship within this community, and that sense of belonging. And then we chatted in episode 3 with Chris Sapelt, our service learning coordinator, and Joel Ditson, our high school principal. And we looked at the importance of service learning in its opportunities that it presents as a part of social emotional development and faith formation, coming together to help our community grow. And then we shared a little bit about some of the activities and the service learning experiences that we are engaged with in partnership with different organizations. We also had Jamie Robertson and Lauren Enns on the podcast. We chatted about youth care and how we are trying to support students to not only recognize and understand what they might be experiencing with social emotional development, but also to have a better understanding of how to be equipped with different strategies to support their interactions on a daily basis with each of their classmates, with their teachers, and hopefully families had a chance to listen to that one. That had a lot of different practical strategies. We looked at, with Aaron Thiessen and Tom Allen, a bit of the gender and sexuality conversations. We looked at a theology of being made in the image of God and some of the theological truths that we use to shape our middle school and high school efforts with relationship and identity curriculum. And then we talked this last episode with Sue Preeb and David Jackson about our learning support services. So it's been a full season so far, with a lot going on just in this school community, and excited to bring things together in our Season 4, Episode 7 finale on really a culminating kind of conversation about communal identity, how this community can form faith and grow socially and emotionally.
Yeah, awesome. And what comes to mind is an initiative that we recently launched in the middle school. And it came about from just me just before Christmas. I was like walking down the halls, and just kids were just misbehaving. And it's like, oh, I just want to hit you. But of course I can't hit you. So I went to Dave and Lauren and said, hey guys, what can we do that we can actually create an environment where kids are socially and emotionally well, and that they're showing good faith development, and that they're showing good character development. And so we came up with this concept together of
We did of
who we are matters, and how we are matters,
and how you are. The two statements just stood out to us. Like not just what you do, right? That's the how you are. Where's it come from? Where's the root of it? Where's the source? And so we came up with a plan.
Yeah, and that connects really closely to conversations about identity in the role of faith formation, that our identity is given to us. We are the image of God. And as a community, we take on that identity so that it becomes more and more ingrained and embodied in how we conduct ourselves, right? So, and even this year, we've been talking about that shared belonging in Christ creates our understanding of our identity. It's kind of our passport, what we carry around. And also then we have this distinctness. We're talking Romans 12 here, Romans 12:5, of many members. We have a lot of diversity here, theologically, culturally, you name it. And then also we have to find unity. So we've had some really good conversations about each of those different aspects too. And the two of you, and in partnership with a number of different members of our middle school team, have really created a great learning environment. We want to continue to provide opportunities to grow together in those conversations.
Yep. And we also want to just be able to have an opportunity to show off some of the videos that our awesome producer, Dylan Bandera over there, who created for us. And it ties in really well. So what we did is we actually modeled to the kids through these videos what we were hoping that they could emulate and what they could take on. And so we're going to show those to you in the video vlog, if that's what this is called, and also in the podcast as well.
Yeah.
But Dave, there were some key points that came about that really anchored us in the series.
Yeah. Kind of what stood out to us were three things. First, identity, which we already kind of addressed, but where does your identity come from? Where does it start? Falls in line with some of the sexual identity stuff that we've talked, you were mentioning before. It always has to come back to who you are and how you see yourself, but also how you see others comes out of that too. And so we started with that. And then integrity.
Yeah, integrity is huge.
Really wanting to be who you are in all environments. That make sure that you're not someone different behind closed doors or with this friend group or whatever. Yeah. And beginning to teach the middle schoolers that kind of concept of understanding. And lastly, legacy. What do you want your reputation or the legacy of your grade to be when you're gone? Yeah. What do you want people to remember about you? What do you want teachers to say about who you were, how you functioned? Younger students coming up, they are replacing you. Like in grade 8, 7th graders are coming up. What do you want them to model after? What's the goal of who you were? Is there something left behind that they are excited to emulate?
Yeah. And a big part of it too is some of those descriptions that we have provided students. We know that sometimes the behavioral change has to take place first in order to see the beliefs and then the values actually change. And so we're trying to help create a common set of behaviors and practices that students engage with. So I love under the integrity one, and we've got speak the truth, show grace, be yourself, don't change for others, don't sell yourself short. And some of those seem really individualistic, but some of those are about integrity, about how do I actually live out that uniqueness of who I am in a communal environment. Yeah.
And the treatment of others and how, I don't know, it just changes everything about who we are and how we function in a family, a Langley Christian middle school family, right?
And then that legacy component, that's where I really find that challenging them to be able to live their faith, to be able to show their ethics, to be able to show their morals and values, and talking about what is your reputation? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to leave behind as you finish middle school program and go on to high school? And so really starting to challenge the kids to think a little bit about that legacy component.
For sure. And even thinking through, like, if you can get that into their heads in 8th grade, imagine what happens throughout high school, right? They come on up and they're watching, first of all, older grades. Yeah. And now they're discerning, hopefully. Is that what I want to be when I get there? Yeah. Instead of just falling into what is. And so that was where the three main themes that stood out for us.
Yeah. So what are we going to do in this episode, Berkeley?
So what we want to do is we want to just quickly introduce each of the videos and do a little overcap and then have you watch them and listen to them. And then we'll tie it up. So why don't you start with the first one?
So we started with identity. And we just made a video of me speaking. We did this in chapel environments and just asking questions like, who are you? Where does your identity start? What matters about who you are? Talking a lot about who God's called them to be, what God says about who they are. just letting them really think about and fill out forms, like have on a piece of paper, what stands out to you? Here's some characteristics of who God says you are. What's most important to you? And starting there, and simultaneously, they're in a group with others in our core groups in different environments, but where they're now translating, if this is important to me and this is who I am, that person's also important in that way too. And so we started with that. And here's our video / audio content on that. Hey guys. So we want to start out by talking about who you are, what identity means for you. So when you think about identity, what comes to mind? When I think about myself and who I am, people will often say, you're a counselor, you're a dad, you're a grandpa, these headings and titles, right? Well, what kind of headings and titles come along with you when you think of identity? Maybe you are a basketball player. Maybe you're good at math. Maybe you're a son, a sister. There's different terms that come to mind when people describe us. But is that really all that encompasses identity? I don't think it really is. But why don't we start with that? What comes to mind when you think of how others will describe who you are? All right, now keep that in mind and we're going to move on a little bit. Sometimes we're described by traits, elements of who we are. Maybe I am, for example, a good listener. Hopefully, I'm a counselor. I'm supposed to be a good listener. Maybe you are too. Maybe there's other traits like, things you're good at or things that people recognize you by. Good hair, nice clothes, good style, things like that can also sometimes be words that we use to describe how or who a person is. But that's not all there is either. The things that matter most and the things that we have that are unique to us because we're Christians, we know who God is. God tells us who we are. These are actually the most important things and parts of what it means to have a sense of self, a personhood, and an identity. So what does God say about you? Well, He tells me that I am chosen. He tells me that I'm loved. He tells you that you're chosen and that you're loved. He tells us that we're His children, that we're His friend. All sorts of elements of identity that matter most to who we are start first in God's Word and who God says that we are. So where we need to start is understanding and beginning to know who we are first, because God says we are this, and then we can start to see other people based on who God says they are. So we got to settle in to who am I? I am loved. I'm chosen. I'm God's child. I matter because He says I matter. And then I can start to look at others and say, they matter too. And God sees them in the same way that He sees me. So our identity is made up by all sorts of different things. Yes, our traits. Yes, characteristics of who we are. Facts about who we are. That's part of it. But the foundation and most important place to start is in who God says we are. So let's start there. And so now you can do some questions and thoughts in your groups and write out some of the pieces, the traits, the characteristics, and most importantly, the foundational pieces and elements of identity that God put in and on each of you. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. So, Kevin, what is the second video going to be about?
Yeah, our second video is all about integrity, and integrity brings together what it means to be a person who doesn't just perform in light of what people think about who you are. There's a ton of pressure from the external pieces of working on teams and hearing from families and the experiences and the expectations that we hold for ourselves. So we want our students to understand who they are now and how that impacts their future choices, how that actually helps them to be discerning about what to do when no one's looking, for example, or when we could use our gifts to draw attention to ourselves or to draw unneeded attention away from people. So I often think about the context of humor and how we can use our humor either to build others up or to make ourselves look good too. So integrity really is this sense of knowing that we already belong, that we're already known, we're already loved, and the actions and the choices that we make operate out of an understanding of trying to build others up as well too. So yeah, in this video you'll hear a little bit more of some practices and strategies and some good stories from Lauren Enns, and we hope that that equips you to engage in this conversation.
The next piece that shapes who we are is integrity. Now, integrity is kind of an ambiguous word, but it affects us every day, impacts who we become in the future, and how people will define us. So what is integrity? Integrity is when your words and actions match your beliefs and values, when you uphold your values no matter the situation and no matter who is watching. Integrity isn't just about following the rules. It's about making choices that align with what you believe is right. It's doing the right thing even when no one is watching. It's when you see a $5 bill fall out of someone's pocket and you pick it up and give it to them, rather than sticking it in your own. It's when you treat our bathrooms with respect, even though there's no security cameras inside. It's when your friends are speaking poorly about someone and you stand up for them, even when you're not there, even when they're not there to hear you. Years ago in Vancouver, after a sad loss by the Vancouver Canucks in the Stanley Cup playoff game, a riot broke out downtown. People were vandalizing streets, breaking into stores, stealing things, jumping on cars, and there was a 17-year-old boy who was there while this was happening. He was a grade 12 student, a high-level athlete, and was set to play at the University of Calgary. He was on the water polo team and had a scholarship, as well as on the junior national team. Now, while he was there, he had a choice to make. He could follow the crowd and join in the rioting, or he could walk away and do what he knew was right. That day, he lacked integrity and joined what the hundreds of other people were doing and set a police car on fire, which later exploded. A picture of him was taken setting the car on fire and posted online. This became one of the most viewed images of the riot, and he was identified by many online. His water polo team heard of this, and he was banned from playing on the national team for 2 years. His university was informed, and he lost his scholarship. So why does integrity matter? Well, the people around you care a lot more about it than you may realize. When you have it, people can trust you, be close to you, and be confident that you're treating them to their face the same way you treat them behind their back. People can count on you to be the person you say you are, but on the flip side, if you lack integrity, people will come to know that you can't be a close friend. You're two-faced and you fake a smile to the same person you spread rumors about. People won't trust the words that come out of your mouth. Teachers won't trust that you're honest about your work, and coaches won't trust that you can be a leader on the team because they can't trust that you're going to do the right thing. So what are you willing to trade in for your integrity? For some of you, it's as cheap as to get a laugh from other people. For other people, it may be the chance to fit in. But for some of you, you hold tight to what you know is right and you won't give it up for anything. But like Will Rogers puts it, it takes a lifetime to build a good reputation, but you can lose it in a minute.
Our third video is about legacy, and we really wanted the kids to start thinking about that their reputation matters. And when they even arrive in middle school, their identity starts to form. They start to, as a body, as a grade level, they start to show us who they are, who they can be, or who they cannot be. Like there's all these dynamics that are going on. So we really wanted to challenge our students to think about that who they are and how they're doing that really does play a key role. And so I used myself as an analogy. Some of you may know I'm going to retire next year. So, I want to talk about my legacy too. What does it mean for me as a principal to leave a legacy behind? And also I talk about a little example of how in the weakness of making a poor decision, your identity can be attached to silly things. So let's watch the video and you can see all about that.
Awesome.
This section, we're going to talk about legacy. And legacy is something that is kind of fickle at times, because for one moment you could do something silly and that's what you're known for. Like an example, we have Water Buffalo Day coming up. And that's a day where we remember how Mr. Glazer almost got run over by a water buffalo. And it was something that was a poor decision that I decided to one day walk down the street to really check out if there's really a water buffalo down at the elementary school. And sure enough, as you've seen in the videos, I'm sure that, yep, it was there, and this water buffalo chased me and almost knocked me over. So, sometimes you're known for things that you don't want to be known for. But in reality, we have to work hard at representing who we want to be known for. So for me, I'm actually retiring pretty soon. In a year and a half, I'm going to retire. And so what's my legacy going to be? And I hope that things that I stand for, like making sure students are taken care of, that students are protected while they're here at school. I want to be known as the principal that did that. Also to be known as the principal that helped his teachers get the tools and equipment that they need to teach well. And also as a leader, I want to be known that, hey, I helped raise leaders that could take over and run schools. So now I want you to think about, as students in your grades, what do you want to be known for? That's something to think about. And your reputation starts the minute you walk into our building in grade 6. And it's not too late to change that. So I want you to take some time and focus on a few questions that we're going to give you to contemplate.
All right, in this fourth video, we've been talking about how we take not only the identity that we belong in and understand that, but how we can also then apply it in a communal kind of setting. And Dave came up with this idea of how we are actually matters. And Dave, so what does that look like in terms of this dynamic of unity, uniformity, and some of the work and conversations we've had with students?
Yeah, well, we've talked through, and you've heard and listened through all the elements of like who you are and what that means and choices and stuff, but what that looks like on the ground in your community with the people around you was what we meant when we said how you are matters. Like, so how you look, the actions that you choose to make, are you thinking? Have you thought through those actions, and how do you hold each other accountable within the context of those in your class, in your grade, in your middle school, in your school, and so on, to doing that? And so we really wanted them to understand that there's a difference, though. Like, we don't want you conforming. It's not about turning into, like, the contrast we came up with was between unity and uniformity. And one of our staff members shared a devotional on this in the staff meeting. We grabbed onto it. And so the contrast is we don't want kids thinking they have to all look the same. And so we did this by having our art teacher come up, and he was making this painting. And as we were sharing the contrast between unity and uniformity, and his painting was really coming to life.
Vibrant colors. Yeah.
Looking amazing. And then he had this cue, and he started to miss. And his paintbrush blurred and blended some, and you heard the kids gasp, right? Oh no, he's wrecking it. And then he just starts going crazy, and he muddies the whole painting and turns it into a big pile of brown-green sludge.
Yeah.
And this was like a painting of a vase with flowers, vibrant colors coming from it, and they're just all moaning in horror, right? And I highlighted, that's not unity, that's uniformity, where we just turn into a blur and
Everybody's
a blend.
the same.
We don't want everyone to be the same. We want you to be different and valued for your differences, but also utilize these elements we've talked about. Understand who you are and why you're different. Understand that it means what it means to be the same in different environments, even when no one's looking, and what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. And so what we're wrapping this up with, after you hear this, you'll know, and the whole picture, is we gave core groups, we got this giant painting picture, cut it up into chunks so they can't see the whole image. Each core group painted it, and we're putting it all back together. And we get to see the beauty and the contrast of what it looks like to have vibrant colors, but not all the colors match, and some are mismatched, and some leaves are pink, and some flower petals are green or whatever, and we get to see it all in one picture. And we're actually unveiling that this Friday at the end of this week, and so we're really excited to see that impact on the students. And so here's the next video that you can watch/listen to if you're listening on the podcast about what we conveyed to the students about how they are.
Welcome, SEAL Team, back to our next session of teaching the kids who we are matters, and continuing that thought now into the next phase, which is going to be how we are matters. But I thought that maybe we could just recap a little bit about what we learned last week. So Lauren, can you just highlight the points that we focused on?
Totally. So we talked about identity, who we are, and who we are in God's sight. Integrity, who we are when no one's looking, and doing the right thing no matter the situation. And legacy, what we want to be known for.
Awesome. All right, so Dave, now this week we're going to focus on how we are matters. So why don't you start us off in terms of how do we do that?
Right. So how is like what you do, how you function, what it looks like for you to be you at school and in public environments where others can see you. And it really starts with like what we talked about last week. If we don't know who we are, who God calls us to be, we don't have a settled sense of self, when we're in an environment where others are doing things or saying things, it's kind of easy to fall to peer pressure, to do things that we wouldn't have done had we had a chance to think about it. And so we really need to focus on what we talked about last week. Remember who God calls us to be, remember who we are, and think through the choices we want to make throughout our day. So we really want to be thinking, and we want to remember that sense of self and all these pieces about God calling us to be things and telling us that we're His chosen, loved, cared for, child, all these things that give us a sense of value, purpose, and feeling of belonging. And we want to hold each other accountable to how we are and what that looks like to be together in an environment. And that's what we're calling you to here in the middle school. So, are you thinking about who you are? Are you thinking about what you do? Are you thinking about how to be there for others? This is what integrity and legacy and all these things we talked about last week look like in action.
Awesome. All right. Lauren, what else are we going to do?
Well, our actions are an outward example of who we are on the inside, like Mr. McVitie said. And we need to think about like not just knowing what's right, because it's really good to know what's right, but it's another thing to do what's right. And are we willing to do the right thing with no reward? Because if we're only doing the right thing because our coach is watching us and we want them to make us the captain of the team, or if we just pick up the piece of garbage that falls out of our locker because our teacher's walking by and we want them to think that we're a great person, that's actually not having integrity. That's just doing stuff for your own gain. And not because you want to do what's right and that's what you know is right. Like we talked about last week, so integrity is doing what's right no matter the situation and no matter who's watching. But how do we do this? Because I know I don't wake up in the morning thinking, okay, I'm just gonna serve everyone else and not think about myself. That is not a natural human thing to do. We're broken people, and I wish I did. That'd be really awesome. I think the people around me would love it, but that's not how I function, at least. But when we think about this in light of Jesus and what He's done for us, like think about it for a second. He was in heaven with God, being glorified, praised, honored, and He chose to come to earth, and there was no reward for Him. There was nothing good coming. People were mocking Him. People were questioning whether He was God or not, and yet He chose to come and then to suffer so that we could be in relationship with Him. And because God wanted to be in relationship with us, He had nothing to gain from that, and yet He did that for us because He loved us. So in light of that, we can choose to look to the needs of others and to our neighbors rather than just to our own needs. And we can do the right thing because of how much God has treated us with love, and we can use that same love and pour that out to those around us.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm hearing these key phrases like, are you thinking? And are you developing a servant heart? And how can we help students live this out together? And what comes to mind is to be able to have the self-confidence to stand up to peer pressure as such, and that is to do the right thing. And let's just give an example, a hypothetical example where let's say there's a group of grade 8 boys who happen to walk over to the wrong side of the school and they're out of bounds, and then they get caught by a high school teacher. And how do they react in that moment? Do they show that they are responsible young adults and that, okay, yeah, sorry, apologize, and move on? Or do they, just get in that supervisor's face and go, who are you and what are you going to do about it? And why don't you just take a hike, right? Like how we do this matters. And so as peers to each other, you need to be able to ask the question, are you thinking? And to your buddies, and they should listen to that and go, oh, am I thinking? What am I doing wrong? And then are you having a servant's heart? Are you here to serve and help others? Or are you here just to gain glory to yourself? And so I think all these things together can really help our kids change our culture, which is really what we're trying to do here in middle school.
Yeah, like we want to belong, right? That's what you're looking for, is a place to belong, but we want to belong in the right place. So when we notice that people aren't doing what they should be, it's because they've forgotten who they are. Right? Hey, I think you forget who you are. So if you're caught doing something that you shouldn't, you're like, oh, you're right. I should have listened. I apologize. You acknowledge, you humbly respond, and then you're shown as integral because you're lining up with who you are. And you do it together. Like you support each other in it, right? And you become family in a different way. And that sense of belonging doesn't need to be based on, are we going to do silly things together? No, we're going to care about each other and remind each other of who we are on the inside. Make sure it shows on the outside.
Right. And like we expect that mistakes are going to happen because we're in middle school, we're humans, they're going to happen. But it's what you do, like Mr. McBeady says, how you respond to that and how you respond to your friends when they make a mistake. Are you encouraging them to keep going in that? Are you joining them in that mistake? Or are you calling them to be who we know they're created to be?
Awesome. All right. The challenge is on to our students to accept this and work on it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to roll out this painting that we talked about. And in your connect group, in your core groups, you're going to work as a unit to paint this tile. And then that's going to come together, as Mr. McVitie said, into a grand picture. And we'll be revealing that next week to everybody. So do a good job. All right. Well, there you have it. It's kind of the outline of our program and what the initiative we've been doing. And so, Dylan, we're going to get you to come to the middle school on Friday to take some footage of the reveal and the painting. For our listeners, if you don't get a chance, you won't be able to see it, but if you come by our school, the painting will be hanging in our hallway beside our middle school gym, and you can check that out. Wow. What?
Yeah, and I was thinking about, what are we hoping to accomplish? How do we know that this did anything?
Yeah.
Really, this is about planting seeds. We did this middle school wide, okay? And so we know that we're planting seeds of understanding, of awareness, of how do you see others, and how do you act and behave as a result of who you know yourself to be, but also who God says they are. And so we're really hoping to see students caring for the environment different, students caring for each other differently, students thinking. That's the biggest thing, I think, thinking before you act. And in middle school, that's kind of hard sometimes, right? Hormones get in the way, you're just doing stuff. But we really want also kind of a communal accountability. Hey, are you thinking? Have you thought through that? I don't know if that's a good idea. A little more of hesitation as compared to impulsive actions, right? And just a continued environment that grows in its ability to uplift each other and really be more rich for who we are. Really represent Jesus better.
Okay, yeah, that wraps up a really fantastic season of conversation with our community. A big part of the work that you're doing is, of course, planting those seeds that we want to continue to partner with in this hopeful harvest that will happen, where students continue to grow and develop during their time at LCS.
Yeah.
And this, of course, pertains to faith formation and social emotional development, but the work that we are doing communally or collectively is so vital for developing a community that reflects belonging, unity and diversity, and oneness in Christ. So, this has been a great season for our listeners. We want to thank you for engaging with us in some of this learning.
Yes.
Feel free to reach out to us at
Yeah.
any point.
Yeah, and reach out to us at podcast@langleychristian.com. We love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.